You're listening to the Black River Bard.
Hello, and welcome to the Black River Bard. This is Chris Berger.
And I'm Sherry Berger.
And we are here today with Ron Himes of the St. Louis Black Rep. He is here at UNL at the Johnny Carson School. Once again, we get to see him, and thank you very much, Mr. Himes, for talking with us yet again.
Yes, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Good to see you again.
Good to see you back in Nebraska again.
Yes, here you are back again. Last time, of course, Dontrell Kissed the Sea, which Sherry got to see.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
I was not able to. My rehearsals would not allow me. It was on the very day that was like, you can't do rehearsal, you can't go anywhere after this date. And it was that day. I was like,
He got to read my review though.
I read the review. So I'm hopefully when you guys, because you guys had to delay that a little bit because of pandemic stuff.
Right, in St. Louis, right. Mm-hmm. We were scheduled to mount it in January. As a matter of fact, we were in rehearsal and in tech when Omicron closed everything down again. And so we were able to postpone it instead of canceling it.
Nice.
And we've moved it back to July.
Cool. I'll have to get up there in July. I'm not doing anything in July, so.
Yeah, it'd be
I was
nice
planning
to
on going anyway, so. Very nice. Well, that is happening, but also while you're here, the reason why you're here is for Traveling Shoes, which is coming up. And this is something, and I'm curious to ask you about this, that you wrote and put together in conjunction with some of the students here.
Right. Well, I didn't actually do any writing.
Okay.
It's a collage of poetry, prose, music, and several monologues written by the students.
Okay.
Some are monologues that they've pulled, some music that I brought in, and we've sort of put it together very quickly.
Okay.
It's been a week we're coming upon the end of the week of rehearsal.
Okay.
And it's a devised piece, so.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
I wondered if maybe it was inspired a little bit by Maya Angelou's book, Traveling Shoes, or.
Actually, it's based on a few years back. I put together, conceived, and directed a show called Crossing Over. And Crossing Over was a show that was all music. It was songs of faith, spirituals, and gospel music, basically trying to share the African American experience with music from its roots in Africa to contemporary gospel in the Black church today. And so I've used some of the music from that as a basis for us to build Traveling Shoes around.
Oh, wow. I bet that's beautiful.
Okay, so Traveling Shoes, sort of the idea.
Right. So the theme is basically we're looking at social justice movements.
Okay.
We're looking at how we're addressing issues that are relevant and contemporary, but also starting with a historical perspective and trying to move forward. So we look at gun violence, we look at segregation, we look at immigration, as I said, and we do it through these prose pieces and through music from the civil rights movement and some spirituals early on.
Cool.
And this is only a 2-night engagement, so people need to get out and see it right away.
Yes, there are only 2 performances.
Yes, or 26 and 27, this
Saturday
and Sunday.
Yep. This is going out tonight.
Okay, yeah, this is going out tonight.
Yeah, we got in. I drove in. My kids are on spring break this week, so
cool.
They had
Perfect.
to travel with us. My wife is doing some choreography on the show. She choreographed Dontrell as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they got to spend their spring break in Lincoln, Nebraska. We've tried to make it work for them, but, they were looking forward to some sunshine and beach.
I'm sure they were.
But
That's all
here we
right.
are, yes.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the production. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what everyone has contributed to it.
Yeah, and everybody's contributed. So, there are, African American students, there are Latin students, there's an Asian student, there are white students, and everybody's contributed something. Everybody's put something in the pot, and we've sort of let it simmer. And I think that people will hopefully be moved this weekend and that the production will stimulate some conversations.
Right. Those conversations definitely need to be had. We actually were talking a little bit about that because on the way here, we were talking a little bit about at some point people feel offended, and maybe it's not intended, or maybe it is intended, but if we stop talking, we don't get to have the conversations that we need to have
Right.
in order to fix
Yeah.
it.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and I think that that's, certainly one of the major purposes of theater. And I think that this piece I will say that it is intentionally provocative in some points.
Okay.
And so we hope that it will provoke conversation.
Yeah.
Because the moment we stop talking,
Yeah.
we're done.
When we shut down, we
And
can't.
it's one of the great things about theater and what theater can do, and what you're doing with Traveling Shoes is to keep necessary sort of conversations going. Here's something else to think about that, in a way that maybe you haven't thought about it before.
Right. Yes.
And really, in all your productions, that's very much the theme as well. Some of the productions that you brought forth
Right.
is all about that mission. And one of my questions, because you're such a seasoned director, and I mean the founder of the Black Rep. So, what is your life's mission? Like, what do you hope to accomplish?
Just
At
that.
the
I mean,
end, yeah.
to be able to educate and enlighten and, entertain people through the work that we do in the theater. But I think that it's very, very important that we educate and enlighten.
Absolutely. What advice would you give young people today?
To find your purpose in life, to find your purpose in the theater, if that's where your life is, and to be committed to telling the truth.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't want to hear the truth, but we have to speak the truth.
Yes, we do.
Truth to power.
Right. And I think always try to assume positive intent. I think that's always such a big, I know that that's kind of a rule that I try to live by, is just to assume positive intent and maybe ignorance where it applies. Right?
Yeah, we speak about ignorance, and we speak about hate, and we speak about the power of love to overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have, after this, you've got Behind the Sheets coming up. Well, you have Behind the Sheets going on right now.
Right,
They
it is
run it.
currently
Black
it's
Rep,
currently
yeah.
running in St. Louis at the Black Rep. It runs through April 3rd. It's a stunning, again, yet another provocative production.
Sure.
Based on the life work of J. Marion Sims, who some know as the father of gynecology. And so it is a play that deals with how J. Marion Sims, in the play, there's Dr. George Barry is who the doctor is.
Okay.
But he, through a series of experimental surgeries on enslaved women who he bought from other plantation owners, performs all of these experimental surgeries on enslaved women without anesthesia. He developed a number of tools that are still used in gynecological practices and obstetrics, ultimately learned how to fix fistulas in women, but he did it at a tremendous human cost to a number of women. One woman we know of that he performed 30 surgeries on. And so the production revolves around that and the evolution of his work and his technique. And so it is running now through April 3rd.
Through April 3rd. That is a fascinating story.
It's an awful story.
It's an awful story, but yeah. But very, very much a real story, good and bad.
Yeah.
But it's all true, unfortunately.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's based on
Wow.
true story and based on his life's work.
And how, I mean, in theater, how do you convey this story? So I know I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything, but to convey it in so many different lights, how do you end up doing that? I'm sitting here almost crying. So for someone to go and watch it for 3 hours, how do you convey everything without losing hope?
Well, because there are 5 women, enslaved women in the play, who hold on to hope, who are having these surgeries performed on them, who are suffering and are hopeful that he can fix them, that he can heal them, that he can make them right again. And so following those women's journey and the hope that they're holding on to is one of the things I think that helps people to get through the evening. Ultimately, he does figure out how to fix the fistulas, and so one of the women by the end of the play has been fixed.
Yeah.
Of course, then the horrible thing is once he's figured it out, he then begins to perform those surgeries on white women with anesthesia.
Of course.
And so, it's a harrowing tale, but it is, unfortunately, I mean, and I've had a number of people say this, it's a harrowing tale, but it's a beautiful production. We've had original music composed for the production. Marjorie and Peter Spack, who did the work on Dontrell, are the scenic designers as well as projections. And so it's really, I had a good friend tell me, he says, I hate to say this, but it's just a beautiful show to watch, but it's such terrible things going on that,
really hard.
That you hate to say that it was a beautiful production.
Right.
But
Yes.
it really is.
Yeah.
It's quite stunning.
Wow. And I can only believe that because Dontrell, Who Kissed the Sea, was an absolutely beautiful production. And the whole lighting and everything, just the feeling of water and water, of course, is emotions and all of those things.
Right.
It was just beautiful.
Yeah. And, Marjorie and Peter Spack, again, as I said, they just do wonderful work. And we've, now worked on a number of productions together and really work well together. And I think that if people get a chance to come to St. Louis before April 3rd, I think it would be well worth the trip.
Yeah.
Right. So no virtual options for
Yes,
that.
no, we're not streaming.
Not doing okay.
Nah,
Fair enough.
no.
Fair enough.
It sounds like it would just be spectacular. And what does the rest of the season look like for you?
Next up is August Wilson's Jitney, which is his play set in the 70s.
Okay.
Actually, Jamie Bullens from here at UNL is a costume designer on that production.
Excellent.
We're talking to maybe a couple of other folk from here who may wind up doing some work for us on the production, but Jamie is confirmed this morning. We had a meeting, confirmed him as the costume designer on that. And then after Jitney, we will close out the season with the production of Dontrell that we moved from January. It will run in July.
Oh, how wonderful. You've got such a fun schedule set ahead of you.
Yeah.
And your wife is probably helping you with the choreography on some of those as well.
She will help with the remount of Dontrell for sure, yes.
Absolutely.
We're looking forward to really having all of the cast that was here in Nebraska in St. Louis for the remount of Dontrell.
Oh, excellent.
So
Nice.
the 4 students who were in the production will be traveling to St. Louis and working with us again.
Wonderful.
So, just real quick for Jitney, I know that you've acted, directed, produced all of August Wilson's plays. What number is this for Jitney? Is this just the second time, or
It's the second time that we've done Jitney.
Okay.
We've gone through the entire cycle. We were the third company in the country to do all 10 plays.
Oh, wow.
And now we're going through the cycle again a second time, but this time we're going through in chronological order.
Okay.
So we've done 6 of the plays up to Jitney twice already.
Okay.
And with Jitney, after Jitney, we have King Hedley II and Radio Golf.
Okay.
And we will have completed the cycle twice.
yeah.
Once as the plays came out.
Yes.
And the second time intentionally in chronological order.
Oh, wow. So I have to ask, did you ever get a chance to meet August Wilson?
Oh, yes. Met
Good.
August on several
did?
occasions.
Okay.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
had wonderful conversations and, just blessed to be in his presence and to be able to talk to him about his work.
Right. So while you were doing those productions or before the productions, like how did it happen in order of you doing all of his productions?
Well, we initially met on the phone because I was having difficulty getting the rights to one of his plays,
Okay.
and I got his number and I called him, and no, I didn't go. I didn't get to. I ran into him at a conference, and I told him about the problems that we were having, with the licensing company holding the rights for the bigger theater in town to do.
Oh, okay.
And the larger theater in the town, of course, had no interest in doing any of his work.
Yeah.
But of course, they were holding out because, that'd be more money for them if the larger theater did the productions.
Right.
So he said, well, here's my number. Next
Oh.
time you have a problem, just call me.
That's
And so from that
fantastic.
point on, I had no problems getting any of his work. I just, when we were ready to do one, I would call him. And I think by then he had already told the license company when St. Louis Black Rep calls,
Oh, wonderful.
they're okay to do my work.
Nice.
That's great. Wow. I bought Kenny Leon's book because I know that he worked with August Wilson and on Broadway, and Chris took it. I haven't read it yet.
Sorry, I'm about halfway through it.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it, and I am going to make
I
sweet
wondered if
potato
you
pie.
got I wondered if you got a chance to meet any of them, or work with any of them.
Oh yeah, well Kenny's a good
That's
friend of mine,
Oh.
and we work together a lot. We play a lot of golf, played a lot of golf together.
Oh my gosh.
And
great.
so there's a circle of the Wilsonian actors. Stephen McKinley Henderson is another really good friend of mine.
Okay.
So a number of Ruben Santiago Hudson. Actually Chris Rawson, who is the critic at the Pittsburgh Gazette,
Okay.
has a podcast series where he has interviewed a lot of the August Wilson actors and directors, and he's interviewed me. I'm in that series of podcasts. So if you
Nice.
check it out, I think it's Chris Rawson, Rawson.
Okay.
I think it's August Speaks is
August-
the podcast series.
Watch
but-
for that for sure.
I saw some interviews on YouTube, but I hadn't. A podcaster hasn't checked the podcast.
Right. Yeah. He's done a lot of people. Kenny, Ruben Santiago Hudson, Steve Henderson, Eugene Lee,
Okay.
myself. A number
Yeah.
of actors and directors.
What's one of the most astonishing things that you've found in doing all of these plays? Is there anything afterwards that after you've done them that you didn't expect? Maybe.
No, I think that, I'm just constantly amazed each time we have done one of the productions at just how powerful they are and what tremendous opportunities they are
Yeah.
for black actors and black directors. It's a body of work, much like Shakespeare,
Yeah.
where, the youngest characters in August's plays are like 8 or 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
And then there's Aunt Esther, who's 285 years old. So, you could have a whole career just
Yes.
playing August Wilson, much like people do, with Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
So you could go from playing the young characters in Joe Turner's Come and Gone and Piano Lesson all the way up to the older characters in Gem of the Ocean and Radio Golf.
Yeah. Wow. We've been so blessed to have so many great writers.
Yes,
Out there.
yes. And that's
Writers of
another
their
thing
time.
I didn't mention that's coming up, speaking of great writers. So in April, actually, just as we're going into rehearsal for Jitney, we will remount our production of Sweat by Lynn Nottage, who is being honored by the Inge Festival in Independence, Kansas. And they are honoring Lynn April 22nd, I believe it is, yes. And on that evening, we will remount our production of Sweat to perform it for Lynn Nottage on the evening that she's being honored by the William Inge Festival.
Oh, wow.
That'll be in Kansas.
Yes, Independence, Kansas.
And just real quick to bring it back around to traveling shoes, as you came to the students with sort of your the traveling shoes idea and your sort of thesis statement, I guess. how did you find that they took to it? Were they immediately like, oh, yes, or?
No, not actually, because, there's a section early on where we deal with slavery. As they were learning the music, the first week of rehearsal was actually by Zoom. And so they were learning the music, and there's a number in the show, Sun Up to Sundown. Basically, the lyrics are sun up to sundown, picking that cotton, sun up to sundown, whipped by the masso, sun up to sundown, chains and shackles, no more auction blocks for me. And I had just asked the musician, my musical director, Vince Learned, who's from here, who's in the dance department, I think.
Okay.
And some of the students had difficulty. Well, the non-black students had difficulty singing that song because they were like, well, we didn't pick cotton and we weren't whipped by the massa. And so it took a little education to say, well, actually there were white slaves. There were indentured servants who were basically white slaves who were treated just like the Africans who were enslaved. And they picked cotton. And they were whipped, and they were treated just as badly as the Africans were treated. And so, it's been that kind of, hopefully, learning process for them during the rehearsal period. And hopefully it will be the same experience for the audience.
For the audience, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
I'm so glad that you have this talent and you've honed it, and you're doing such great work.
Well, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share it. And, we've been in this 2-year collaboration with the Nebraska Rep and the Johnny Carson School, and this is the culminating event of those 2 years. So I'm hoping that it will be well received.
Oh,
Excellent.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for
thank
coming
you,
to
Ms.
Nebraska
Thomas.
and doing what you do and letting us talk to you. It's such a privilege.
That's right.
thank
Hopefully we'll
you.
get to snag you again sometime. We'd love
Yeah.
to talk to you again. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, anytime. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
For more information on the performances of Traveling Shoes and the Nebraska Repertory Theatre, go to nebraskarep.org. And for information about the St. Louis Black Repertory Company, go to theblacksrep.org.
Thank you for listening and supporting the arts in the Platte River area and beyond. Please subscribe to our podcast so you are sure to catch all of our future episodes and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Music for this podcast was used with permission by Screaming Skull Productions. See you next time on the Platte River Bard.